I am doing this quick video to show how to extend and how to weld connections for LED strip lights. I'm doing this project for a number of cabinets. It's 8 cabinets with 2 strips of overhead lighting in addition to the inline inside the cabinet lighting. What I'm going to show today is my technique for taping and welding the lines together. I'm using a 24 gauge electric wire to weld the connectors. One of the important things is to keep track of which color you're using for the positive and the negative. I'm using the red for the positive and the black for the negative. What I had done is I pre-cut all of my wire ahead of time and stripped it so that I don't have to worry about it later on when I do install it, or when I'm about to weld it. I don't have to strip again. At this point I'm going to be welding this wire here to this section of this strip. So the first thing that I usually do is I take one piece of tape and I put it right on top, making sure that the contacts are still exposed. I take a second piece of tape facing upwards and I put it right under, and then I fasten this. I stick it here to my surface. What that does is it provides me with a surface where I can keep my wires in place. So the next step here is for me to align the wires. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm doing red as positive and black as negative. So I'm going to align the red over the positive, and then I press it down on the tape, and the tape will help hold that down and then in place where I want it. And then the same thing for the negative. And once I do that, I will take another piece of tape and I will put it right on top here to keep these in place. Now keep in mind also that I've already had my solder running, my solder gun, my solder tip running here. And what I will do is I will touch the pad first with the solder and maintain contact with the wire as well. And what that will do is it will heat the pad and the wire at the same time, which will allow me to get a nice solder contact here on the surface. So that was pretty easy. We got the first contact. I use this wool usually to clean my tip, and especially if there's residue on it. Otherwise, if it looks like there's just a little bit that I need to wipe, I use my sponge. You should wet ahead of time. Now on to the next connection. The same technique. I touch the pad and the wire at the same time, and then I introduce, once after a few seconds, I introduce the solder at the contact point between the wire and the pad. When it's the right temperature, the solder will melt when introduced. So wait a little longer. Let's try this now. What you don't want to do is you do not want to touch your your solder to the iron directly. If you do that, you might not get a nice joint because the two surfaces that you are soldering together need to be hot in order for the solder to really bond to them appropriately. There we go. That is done as well. And that's it. So for each joint, what I do is I plug in my light just to test to make sure that my solder joint is working properly. So I'm gonna go ahead right now and turn on the light. And as you see, there's illumination on these LEDs as well as these LEDs. Then I will disconnect the wire. I never solder with my wire connected to electric. So the next step is I will remove the tape, carefully not to break my solder joint in the process of doing so, not to damage any of the LEDs. And once I do that, I will wrap the joint here, the solder point, with some electric tape. And the reason why I do that is because I do not want any potential contact later on as I am putting these in to short that connection between the two. So doing so right now, if I accidentally introduce any metal object as I am installing these, that metal object will not short this connection between the two. And that is how you extend wire. Of course, you can buy wire extenders, which are gonna cost you a lot more to do so and give you a lot less flexibility. I found also with the extenders, what happens is it's quite a bit challenging to insert this very thin film into the extender and keep a nice joint in there. So I definitely prefer the soldering technique because it allows me to extend the LED lights at whatever length that I need my extension to be. And as I mentioned earlier, I like to do this before doing the installation because this way I can be soldering comfortably at a desk rather than within the confines of a closet or under cabinets or anything like that. Thank you for watching and I hope this was helpful.